Hey guys, my name is Angela and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This has been a tough week for me this week. I haven't been well recently, and this week I spent a couple of nights in hospital having some testing done. So that kind of sucked, but on the plus side, I got some reading done while I was there. And it just kind of led me to think about when I read in bed. I know I mentioned this in my last video, but I tend to read in a chair more than I read in bed. But when I do read in bed, it's usually when I'm not feeling so well. So I wanted to kind of focus on that for a minute and just be in that space. It really is quite comforting for me to be able to curl up in bed and read a book when I'm not feeling too well. And I do love to have a bedside table that is stacked full of books. Some of these I may be reading through at the moment, some maybe sitting on this for a year, and I'll just dip into it here and there. So first, before I get into some of the books that I like to have on my bedside table, I thought I'd go through some essentials that I like to have nearby which make the experience a bit better. The first thing, which I don't often eat in bed, but I do always keep just a little bit of dark chocolate on the side. Just one square of this satisfies my sweet tooth. I have more of a savoury tooth than a sweet tooth, so that is more than enough for me. I also make sure I have a water bottle, I have a coaster. I have, behind a picture frame, I have a Google Mini, so I'm able to play some music. And I do like to play things like quiet music for reading or some smooth jazz piano. That's kind of my favourite background music. And I do also keep a few pens and pencils and highlighters just in case, depending on what I'm reading. I don't normally annotate fiction books, but if I'm reading something non-fiction, I might do that. So those are some essentials that I keep in my bedside table. I do have a couple of books on the go that I mentioned recently here, which is The God of the Garden, which is non-fiction, and Why Women Grow, also non-fiction. These are I really do enjoy reading non-fiction at night. I don't know, there's something about it. These two I've got here, and this is going to be my next read. Winnie the Pooh. I have a project coming up of children's books that I want to read, and I'm going to share them with you as soon as I get them all here. I've been ordering them here and there. But Winnie the Pooh, and this is such a beautiful little edition. There's like this artwork in here. It is just stunning. Like the end pages have the entire map. I just love it. So just looking at the name Winnie the Pooh brings me joy. I'm looking forward to getting into that. And I mean, it's just so cute. The illustrations are just beautiful. So those are a few current reads that I currently have. The next type of book that I like to keep on my bedside table is some poetry of some sort. And one that I bought recently is called The Poetry of Birds, edited by Samuel Carr. And this is by Bedside, which I think are the same people that brought out a poem for every night, a nature poem for every day, which I do have something like that here. But this is just about birds. And again, it's just, the illustrations are just exquisite in here. There is all sorts of poetry from contemporary poets to, 18th century, I guess. It's really, really beautiful, and some of the poetry is just gorgeous. There's actually this one it's Shakespeare. It's from The Merchant of Venice, called Birdsong. The crow doth sing as sweetly as the lark, when neither is attended, and I think the nightingale, if she should sing by day, when every goose is cackling, would be thought no better a musician than the wren. I mean, it's just, look at this. I just love flicking through it. And if I can just read a little bit of poetry here and there, then good for me. Another couple of poetry books I have up here is I've got some Mary Oliver. This one's currently, because we're coming into autumn soon, and Upstream I started this last autumn. I haven't yet finished it, so I'll be finishing that this autumn. And it's just a collection of poems and essays, nature poems. So that's another one that I've got on my bedside table. I also have another Mary Oliver that I purchased recently, which is Felicity. And these are, I think, mainly like love poems, and it's much slimmer. So some poetry is lovely. And this is one of the first poetry books I ever bought. And this is A Night Without Armour by Jewel, the singer Jewel. And I went through a phase where I decided that I wanted to toss out every dust jacket, and that's what happened in this instance. But her poetry, I love her songwriting. Her poetry is just as incredible. It's really, really lovely. If you haven't read any of her poetry books, she's got a couple that are out, not recently, but they are great. So I'd recommend that you check them out as well. So in addition to poems, I've got my current reads, I've got some poetry, and I like to keep some devotional type books on my bedside table. At the moment here, I've got it's like a book of Psalms, so it's devotions all through the entire book of Psalms, which is 150 daily devotions, and it's by Dane C. Ortland. So it has the psalm and then it has a small devotion after it, but that's really lovely and it's easy to do one a day if I wanted to. I'm also still reading my book for Lent by Tim Chester called, I can't remember what it's called now, but it's all through the Gospel of John. I'm really enjoying that one. The fact that it's not just scripture, it's also prayers and poems and meditations. So those are a couple of different devotions that I have on the go. After the devotions is short stories. I do like to have some short stories available, just if I don't want to get into one of these books, I can just pick up something and read a few pages of a short story and be satisfied, just soothe that itch. So one that I do like to have, because it is beautiful as well as the writing is just gorgeous, is this one is A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. It is a Macmillan Collector's Library. Again, I just decided to toss the dust jacket because the actual book itself was so beautiful. And it's got these beautiful gilded edges. So that's another little, it's not a short story. There's a few pages in here, 300 pages, but anyway, it's something that you can easily dip into. I like the size of it for on the bedside table. I also have The Man Who Planted Trees by Jean Giono. This was something I read late last year, and it's just such a simple story, and it's a bit of an allegory tale. So that's another short story, very, very, very short. This is called 3 Stories by J.M. Coetzee. He's probably one of our most famous writers that we've ever had. But anyway, J.M. Coetzee, 3 stories. It's just 3 little stories, and I fell in love with the cover and the little book. Galatea, a short story by Madeline Miller. Love Madeline Miller. I can't wait for her next book. I don't know. I'm trying to find out when it's coming or what it is about. But anyway, Galatea by Madeline Miller is a teeny tiny story. It's very, very slim, just 50 pages long. But that's another little book I like to keep nearby. There's also a new book coming that I've seen that's coming out, I think, in April, which is botanical short stories. And it just looks like a really nice contemporary take on some botanical short stories. So I'm looking forward to probably adding that to my collection at some point this year. Also falling into the short stories is perhaps, that probably falls into poems and short stories, is having an anthology. And the one I currently have here is a nature poem for every night of the year. I've resisted getting this for a long time because this is written as if you were in the Northern Hemisphere, like it takes you through, everyone is dated. So you've got January, and there's like the 1st of January. And of course, the 1st of January where I am is not the same as what it is in England. I don't want to be reading about robins appearing in spring in March when we're coming into autumn. So I'm actually having to read it 6 months apart, So for July, I'll be reading January in here. But the poetry is lovely. It's a beautiful book to look at. It's just beautiful. This is by the same people that did the poetry of birds. They have an incredible collection of poetry out. This is something that I do like to have on my bedside table. And there's another anthology I came across called Romanticism. And I think it's more of a study text, but it's like 1,600 pages of key writings from the British Romantic period. And it has complete works in there. I think that's why it's so big. But that's definitely something that I want to look at. I think I want to see a physical copy because 1,600 pages is pretty bloody big. And then the last kind of book that I keep on my bedside table is cookbooks or coffee table books. I have a couple here which are as beautiful to look at as they are to read. The first one is The Farm Table by Julius Roberts. This guy is a doll. Like, if you haven't seen his Instagram, I highly recommend it. It's a guy just wearing like woolen jumpers, romping around the countryside, feeding baby lambs, and then making delicious meals in his greenhouse. And it's just heartwarming. But his recipes are really, really lovely. And this, again, is set by season. It goes through winter, spring, summer. It has information about his background. So he was originally he was working as a chef, I think, in a Michelin star restaurant, maybe the River Cafe, like a really popular one in England. And he realized that it wasn't for him. And so he ended up becoming a farmer, but he's, kept cooking, but actually just cooking, not chef kind of cooking. He's a cook. And some of the recipes are delicious. I have tried a couple. I think I made it was like a barley and lamb stew, which was really delicious. But one of the reasons I love cookbooks is just if you get a good one that has good photography, I'm there. So I really, really like this one, and I do like these books that are a bit memoir as well as cookbooks. So that's a favourite one that I'm enjoying flipping through. And the other one that I have is American in Provence by Jamie Beck. About five years ago, I retired as a photographer. I was a wedding photographer for 12 years, 13 years. And Jamie Beck was most definitely a source of inspiration for me when it came to my photography. So, and I'm a big Francophile, so Jamie Beck moving to Provence was just hitting all the marks for me. But so this is, again, it goes through the seasons. It's such an easy way to go through a book. So it goes through all the seasons. There's information in here about her photography techniques. There's also recipes. It's part memoir, part fashion, part art, and it's a delightful book to go through. And recently, last year, we went to Europe, and I was fortunate to go to Avignon. We stayed in Avignon, which is nearby to where she lives. So it was really nice to see the places that she references in here. And I really, really enjoy it. And the recipes are delightful. I love French cooking. So I highly recommend it if you're into art, if you're into anything French. Um, it's really, really well written. It's her journey from living a fast pace in Manhattan to then living in Provence at a much slower pace, becoming a mother, refining her art. It must have been so, so scary to go from having that security of those, being where she was in New York to then being remote in Provence, but it's working and they're still there. So I highly recommend this one as well. But so that's the kind of things that I like to keep on my bedside table. I've got current reads, I've got short stories, poetry, coffee table books, and cookbooks, as well as some anthologies and devotionals. So I hope you enjoyed this look into my bedside table. We're coming to the end of February, so I think my next video will be a wrap up of what I've read this month. And it's been a good little month, actually. I'm going to have a few surprises in there for you, I think. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a lovely week ahead, and I'll see you soon. Bye.